I'm going to describe real quick what the web components app module for Drupal is doing through an example that we're using in production or working close to getting into production. So I have LRN app open studio. So the first thing that the app module is doing is providing this path. And so if I place the file in the correct location, so this is my app that I've dropped into a module directory, apps, and then the name of the app. And so I developed this entirely headless. It's not connected to anything. I usually point to like a .json file. And then I modify this manifest.json file. And this is pretty much all you need to get Drupal to understand what to do with it, at least at a base level. So then it's going to say title Open Studio. In this case, I'm saying, hey, you have a menu path and you should be displayed in the menu ElmsLN navigation. With those two pieces of information right there, that's enough to get the word Open Studio to show up here in the right place. And when I click it, it goes to the right thing, and that link to be titled as such. Next part of the manifest is endpoints. Now you can define different pathways effectively to get data. And at the end of that pathway, it's going to be calling a function. So in this case, there's going to be a pathway added on to this called /data. And /data is going to do a callback for CLE Open Studio app data. And so when we get this put into the page, right, we've got this menu path, and I look at what Drupal's done. It's put my single tag down with a CSRF token, an endpoint definition saying, hey, there's an endpoint here. There we go. The endpoint is the page we're currently on. A base path, a source path, and in this case, source path relates to this right here. See how this property says source path. So Drupal is going to put down a source path that points to the correct location for it to wire up data. So you see it's source path, Sig100 apps, LRN apps studio /data, which is where the data part comes in. Then it puts in the CSRF token. So it's automatically doing that stuff, which is pretty awesome. Now you get these secure pathways. You don't have to do anything to do it. It also then is, in my case, is providing some contextual data about what course this is. That's not what the module typically does. We've used the hooks in the module to bring that in. So then if we look at network, and we go to XHRs, and we reload this page, we'll see it's using that source path then to get data back down. And you'll see when it calls data, it got data back. In this case, it's a JSON file. So we see who the author is, we see that a post has images and whatnot. If we look at what that actually said though in our manifest said, hey, hit this callback. Well, there's this awesome auto-loading capability that if you have the name of the app.php in the app, Drupal will then load that file. Well, it becomes a logical place to stuff that function. So in this case, I have CLE Open Studio app data. It's got some details about what parameters have come in. It does some sanitization on that automatically, which is also pretty cool. It says, hey, load a node and kick it back. Oh, I didn't get a node. Okay, so let's get a list of submissions. And then from there, we're just building an array. And then we're returning the data. So then whatever gets returned in this function, it's going to send back to my app. So you can see how you could have a workflow where you're basically just pointing to JSON files in the course of whatever this is, and maybe your Iron Ajax, which typically wires these things up, just points to example data.json or what have you, and that would be enough to kickstart your app. So then from there, you can see it looks like any other Polymer app. I've got this app toolbar. I've got an if statement saying, hey, if there's submissions, then go ahead and print this drop-down menu for the author, drop-down menu for project. And then it goes in and does a DOM repeat in which it loops through the submissions that were returned and sends them into this other tag called LRN Design Gallery Card. So 99% of our development work now is in Polymer and not Drupal. Drupal is there just for the wiring. So, I mean, Drupal is still extremely important in this whole equation because it's providing an easy framework to drop these in. It's doing the routing. It's automatically generating permissions, menu paths, handling all the user access types of things. But that most of the user experience people are going to engage with is going to be delivered by something else, which is web components. And here you can see the access Open Studio. So it's generated a permission for each app that we have in here, in this case.